Hello everyone, my name is Alex Karaman and I am the instructor for your GWS 200 course. So this video is meant as an introduction to the course. We're going to spend a lot of time working through the syllabus and looking at D2L, how to navigate the different content that's on the D2L website, and kind of talking generally about the content and pace of the semester. So before we get started, just to make sure, if you are watching this video, you should be in the Fall 2017 GWS 200 course on Women in Western Culture. Now, this course is an online course, and that's why I'm here on this video, talking to you digitally rather than in person. And it's an online course that's also compacted into just 8 weeks of the semester, the last 8 weeks of the fall semester. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that means, about kind of the fast pace that this course will take, and about managing an online course, especially for those of you who maybe have never taken a course online at the university before. But before we get started, I want you to pause this video in just a second, pause this video, and I want you to pull up the following things. So first off, I'm going to need you to pull up a copy of the syllabus for this course, and I want you to also pull up the D2L page for this course. Now, you might have the syllabus through your email, since I've sent it out a couple times already, or you can just go onto the D2L page for the course and pull it up in the content section. So go ahead and pause the video and do that, and make sure that you have the syllabus and the D2L page in separate browsers or separate programs, so that you can look at one and then the other back and forth between the two. So I'll give you a second to do that. All right, so at this point I assume that you probably have them both pulled up. Now we're going to start by going through the syllabus, but before we do that, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So again, my name is Alex Karaman, and I am just going into my 6th year in the PhD program in Gender and Women's Studies here at the University of Arizona. The first 2 years of the program were spent doing my master's, and then the last 3 before this were spent finishing coursework for my PhD, taking my comprehensive exams, and now I'm in the stage where I'm writing my dissertation and also doing field research. So right now, actually, I'm in my apartment here in Jerusalem in Israel, and I do research throughout Israel and Palestine on Palestinian hip-hop culture. Since a lot of my work also pertains to geography, where my PhD minor is, most of my research is about how identity and geography intersect within the Palestinian hip-hop culture. So I look a lot at urban geography, about geographic transformation over time, and about how identities form within kind of geographically particular cultural landscapes. So I look a lot at how gender and sexual identities form through and within the Palestinian hip-hop culture. A lot of my work is here in Jerusalem. Some of it is in Ramallah, which is in the West Bank, just about 10 miles north of where I am right now. And a lot is in Haifa, Nazareth, and Akka, which are 3 cities in one of the northern port areas of Israel. So I'm going to be here until the 10th of December, which is when I have my flight back to the United States, which means that for all intents and purposes, I am just as available as I should be for an online course. So whenever you want to, we can schedule time for Skype, or if you use the WhatsApp application on your smartphones, time to talk on the phone or video chat over the phone about any questions you might have. And of course, as always, you can email me with any questions you have as well. Now, the only thing that this means with me being abroad is that I won't have in-person office hours for the course. So anybody who's used to going and visiting their professors or their instructors at their offices, that's going to be a bit different for this course. But I actually think it means that there's more flexibility and more time to meet, because I can schedule with each of you when you want to meet. So let's go ahead and turn to the syllabus, which you should have pulled up in front of you right now. So again, this is GWS 200, Women in Western Culture. Now I'm going to take a quick moment to read the course description to you, which is on page 1 here. So this course will introduce students, you, to a range of approaches to understanding the term culture, from feminist accounts of the representation of women in U.S. popular culture to scholarship on the anti-racist, countercultural practices of female hip-hop and punk musical artists. This class will draw from critical theory, prose, films, music videos, television shows, and visual art, and will require students to analyze cultural artifacts of their choosing. Now, I'll pause for a second here. Cultural artifacts is a term we're going to learn in week 1 of the course, but it just refers to any item that you would consider kind of a product of culture. So it could be a music video, it could be a television show, it can be a piece of art, a piece of sculpture. All of these things and so much more count as cultural artifacts, including the more mundane things like makeup styles or clothing. The course proceeds through 3 units, each intended to build on the previous unit while pushing towards a more critical understanding of what this word culture means and its uses and its contents. Now, the first unit focuses on feminist critiques of mainstream U.S. and Western cultures on subjects ranging from body image and eating disorders to heteronormativity and transphobia. The second unit moves into surveying modes of countercultural production and consumption as a response to some of these sexist, racist, homophobic, transphobic, and even nationalist U.S. cultural practices. Now, the final unit troubles this idea of the West. It challenges the physical and theoretical borders of the concept of the West to address how current transnational, international moment promotes the globalization of Western cultural norms and practices with a focus on both the practice of cultural imperialism, which we'll talk about later, and the forms of resistance that it forms within the purview of the Middle East in particular. So while I don't focus exclusively on the Middle East when we talk about resistance to Western cultural globalization, since a lot of my research is in and on the Middle East, I do tend to focus on that a tiny bit. But I see this as a really good opportunity to look at how one of the regions of the world that's been most affected by United States economic, military, political, and even cultural practices responds to some of those trends. Now, in this course, we have a number of goals that we want to try and accomplish, which you'll see right below the course description on the first page of the syllabus. So the first is to engage students in the rigorous study of contemporary debates and methods of inquiry through sufficient required readings, lectures, visual texts, films, and in the case of this course, a lot of music. We're also going to be focusing on critical and evaluative thinking. And you'll realize throughout the course that I'm really trying to stress, I don't want you to just repeat what the authors have said. I don't want you to just show that you have done the reading, but I want you to reflect on, criticize, and evaluate what you've learned. We're going to promote independent, creative, and interactive learning. All of these things are really important to the course. Since it's an online course, working independently is going to be something that you're encouraged to do. Since it is a course on culture, we want everybody in the class to be very creative. We want you to think outside the box, to pick topics that are new to you so that when you're writing papers or writing responses or even engaging in online discussions with your fellow students, that you're learning new things and being creative in your approach to this course, and also interactive learning. Now, this last one's a bit difficult since this is an online course, but through a number of different means, we're going to promote interacting with fellow students, the biggest one being the use of the online discussion section on D2L. Now, of course, we're going to engage students in discussions of course topics and material. And finally, we're going to develop critical and analytic writing skills. Now, one thing that a lot of my students in this course have said before, and I've taught this course a few times, is that it's a really writing-heavy course. In fact, if you choose to venture on to Rate My Professor, you can easily see that a lot of people think this is a reading and writing-intensive course. And that's definitely true. In gender and women's studies, reading and writing are some of the key things that we use to develop our field. And since this is an online course that lacks an in-person lecture and discussion course, or lecture and discussion meetings, we need to kind of supplement that with more writing and more reading that's done online. Now, we have a number of different materials for this course. I want to keep the costs to you all as students really low, so we only have one book for the course. It's available in the bookstore right now. However, of course, you're encouraged to look for it online. It might be found cheaper on Amazon, and though I'm not sure, might even have a digital copy that's available online. And that textbook is called Gender Through the Prism of Difference, and really important is that we're using the 5th edition. And I've taught multiple editions of this book, but the newest one is the 5th edition, and that's what we're using for this course. Now, only about half of our material comes out of that textbook. The rest comes from a number of other sources. First and foremost, additional articles and essays, which are available on D2L. Now, all of the articles and essays that we use for this course are available for free through our library. So all of these are articles that you can access through the library website. However, I've made it easier for you by downloading them all as PDFs and then uploading them to the D2L page. And as you'll find, the order that they're in on D2L is the order that they come in on your syllabus. Next is films and other media. Now, we have a number of different documentary films and a few short video clips that are also available on D2L with a link to this really great website that our university subscribes to called Canopy Streaming. Now, when you go to watch the first film for the course, I encourage you to browse through the website because it provides a wealth of awesome documentary films that you can watch on a range of topics, not just gender and women's studies. Now, finally, and really key to this course are the lectures. Now, we have two different aspects to the lectures which are meant to be engaged at the same time. We have the lecture videos, which I've already uploaded to YouTube, and the corresponding PowerPoint slideshows, which are available on D2L. So in a normal course, I'd be up at the front of the room and I'd have a slideshow or some other Prezi up on the board, and as I'm going through that, I'm lecturing on top of it. But since this is an online course, I wanted to be able to accomplish that as close as possible by creating a weekly lecture video and PowerPoint for you to go through. So when you go on to D2L, you'll notice that there's two different sections in the course content. One of them is lecture videos and one of them is PowerPoint lectures. And when you look through those, you'll see that each PowerPoint lecture has a corresponding video on YouTube. When you pull up the slideshow and pull up the video, ideally next to each other on your computer screen, you'll realize that as I lecture, I tell you to switch slides. So I'll lecture for a bit and then tell you to change to slide 2 or slide 5 or slide 20, whatever it may be in the PowerPoint. And this way, not only can you revisit the lectures over and over again as much as you want to, but you can also follow along and know when to change slides to ideally replicate kind of what a real in-person course would be like. Now, keeping in line with going through the syllabus in order, we're now on page 2 of the syllabus. I want to pause and kind of cover this brief note on the pace of an online half-semester course. One of the bits of feedback that I get from a lot of students is that this course involves a lot of work. But I encourage you to keep in mind that there's a number of reasons for that. So this is a full credit course. You're getting 3 units for this course. However, it's compacted into just half a semester, which means that the workload for the course is parallel to 2 courses that are spread over the normal semester. In addition to that, while you would normally spend about 3 hours a week in lecture and discussion sections of an in-person course, those hours are now transferred online through the viewing of the lecture videos, reviewing the PowerPoint lectures, and engaging in online discussion posts with your fellow students. So while it might seem like a lot of work, and perhaps you might feel like there's twice as much reading as you expected, again, that's because we're doing a full semester of work in just 8 weeks. So it's going to be a lot. Now, this is particularly important because this class starts halfway through the semester. So you've probably already gotten into the pace of the work for your semester. You have a schedule, you have a routine, but then all of a sudden in the middle of the semester, you're starting an online course which has kind of a large amount of work in it. So you need to make sure that you're ready to be able to accommodate that. And if you have any concerns about what that entails, you can feel free to contact me. But the most important thing, since this is an online course, is you schedule the work throughout the week. A lot of students fall into this trap where they think, okay, it's an online course, I can go on Saturday, sign into D2L, and just do all the work for that week. But that isn't the case with this course. You're encouraged to be on D2L, be engaging the course materials, doing the readings, watching the films, posting on the discussion sections throughout the week so that you don't fall into this trap where you get on Sunday and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, this is too much work to do in just one day, and I want to be able to make it to the football game later today. Now, I'm a huge football fan, especially U of A football. Might not be the case with all of you, but I could see this being a problem. So make sure that you're ready to handle the workload in this course and email me if you have any questions about it. Now, grading in this course is pretty simple and only draws from a few assignment areas. Now, the first area is discussions and participation, which is graded together, and this is entirely graded through your participation in the D2L discussion section online. Now, it's really important that you post regularly and be prepared when you post to discuss course lectures, readings, films, and other media. Now, you'll also be required to respond to fellow students' posts. This is where the discussion component comes in. Now, all of these posts will be graded on your ability to synthesize and analyze information from multiple readings, lectures, films, and also to utilize key course concepts that will be highlighted during the lectures. You're going to be asked to pose and answer thoughtful questions. Now, all of the lectures are intended to provide you with a bit of theoretical background before you engage with the readings and the films for this course. So every week you're encouraged to start by looking at the lecture videos and PowerPoints to ground yourself in some key concepts before going into the readings. And in the discussion posts, you're going to need to put those two things into conversation. You're going to need to demonstrate to me the way in which you can take a concept or a theory from the lecture and apply it to your analysis of the readings or of the films. Now, every week you're going to have a total number of posts that you need to accomplish, and they're due by the end of Saturday of each week. Now, that's to post 3 original comments and 3 response posts. Now, these response posts will be to other classmates. Each of the weeks will have 3 different prompts, which you'll be able to look at in the D2L section entitled Discussions. Now, each of these prompts you have to respond to. So when I say you need 3 original posts per week, that means 1 original post for each of the 3 prompts. And similarly, your responses to other students need to be divided between the 3 major prompts for the week. So in other words, you should have 1 original post and 1 response post for each of the 3 prompts every week. Now, your original posts are expected to be a full paragraph long. And when I say a full paragraph, I don't mean, 5 or 6 sentences. A full paragraph is a good 10 sentences or more of deep analysis and thoughtful reflection. Of course, your responses to classmates can be a bit shorter, 5 or 6 sentences or longer if appropriate. To make things easy and manageable for the course, the week that your midterm is due, the week of the midterm exam, which will be online, and the week that your final paper are due, there are going to be no discussion posts online, so you can focus your energy instead on getting those assignments finished, preparing for the midterm exam, and writing your final paper. Throughout the course of the semester, we're going to be calculating discussion grades twice. Now, once is going to be leading up to the midterm, and once is going to be for the second half of the semester from the midterm to the final. Discussions and participation are worth 45% of your grade, so it's really important that you attend to them every single week because just one missed week can be a big kind of dent in your overall grade. 20% of that 45% will be the pre-midterm discussion, and then the remaining 25% will be everything after the midterm and before the final. Now, looking back at the syllabus here, the next thing is the unit reading reflections, and these are worth a total of 15% of your grade. Now, again, this class has 3 major units in it, and at the end of each unit, due by Sunday at midnight after the end of that unit, you'll be required to submit to the online Dropbox or on D2L the assignments section a reading reflection in which you integrate at least 3 sources from that week's readings. Lectures and films are not included in that minimum number, though you really should also be citing both of those. These reflections should include your own thoughts on the material, some of which might be personal thoughts or experiences with what's being discussed, as well as a critical analysis of the strengths and weaknesses of what you read, or if you're integrating films as well, what you watched. Now, a note on formatting. I'd like everything for the course to be formatted this way, including your rough draft and final draft of your final paper. And this is formatting with 1-inch margins on all sides, a single spaced heading. I don't want a heading that takes up the first third of your first page, and a double-spaced body. Now, in the case of your reading reflections, they should be 2.5 to 3 pages each. Again, this is only 3 times during the semester that you have to submit these. As with the discussion posts, summary information of the readings should be kept to a minimum and is only needed when you're integrating that summary into your analysis. Remember, you're writing these papers to me, so you're writing them to someone who's an expert on this material and has read these articles multiple times over. So I don't need summary information from them if it's not going to be something that you're discussing in depth. Now, in terms of the 3 sources that you're using, you need to be using at least one of the D2L readings and one of the book readings. The 3rd reading source that you cite, or if you choose to cite more than 3, can come from either D2L or the book readings. In other words, what this means is I want you to demonstrate that A, you bought the book, and B, that you're not just relying on either D2L or book readings to drive your analysis and for your learning in the course. Overall, the book readings are a bit easier than the readings that come from D2L. And this is why I really want you to be integrating both. Some semesters I have students who rely either just on D2L or just on the book, but you really need to do both. And if you're concerned about the cost of the book, I encourage you to contact other students in the course early on to ask about perhaps making photocopies or scans of the readings from the book so that you can follow along without having to take on that large fee. Or if you are taking this course along with a friend or a couple friends, you can all go in on a book together and share it during the course of each week. Now, 15% of your overall grade is from the reading reflections, and since there are 3 of them, it's really straightforward. They're worth 5% or 5 points each. Now this course works on a point and percent system that's the same. So we have a total of 100 points or 100%, depending on how you like to think of it. Now, moving down, the next major thing that we have is our midterm. Now, our midterm is going to be taking place on D2L, and it's going to be on November 10th. When I say on D2L, I mean it's an online examination. You'll need to sign into D2L, go to the quizzes section of the D2L page, and then begin the exam. The purpose of the midterm examination is to test your facility with class material and class discussions across the first 4 weeks of the course. The exam will include multiple choice, short answer, and 1 essay question. It'll be timed, but it will be open to take at any time on Friday, November 10th. Additional info, including a study guide, will be provided closer to the exam. But I can already tell you, if you go onto D2L now and look in the first section of the content page, you'll notice that I've already provided you with a list of every key term from lecture over the course of the whole semester. Now, leading up to the midterm, you're going to be asked to prepare answers for definition questions on the midterm that will require you to define concepts and provide examples of those concepts from the readings and from the videos. So you can go ahead anytime you want to during the course of the class. I recommend every week take a look at that document that has all the key concepts and terms from lecture on it and revisit the concepts to make sure that you're familiar with them and you know how to talk about them. Also, the study guide will make things very easy for you with preparing for the exam. I'll talk about this more as the exam gets closer, but you want to think of the midterm as a take-home exam whose answers you plug in during that November 10th online window. In other words, the study guide will basically give you every question that could show up on the exam. However, only a portion of the questions from the study guide will actually be on the exam. So it's up to you to choose how to prepare. It's recommended that you spend a large number of hours preparing your answer for every single question on the study guide so that when you sign online to take the exam, you can just copy and paste those answers in and make it really easy. If you wait until the exam to submit all of your answers and to look up the answers in the readings and in the lectures, there won't be enough time on the exam for you to do that. The exam is meant to be a gimme in the sense that if you prepare ahead of time enough for it, it should be really easy. Now, the last major assignment for this course is the final paper, and this is worth 25% of your grade. Now, the purpose of the final paper is to demonstrate your ability to apply class concepts and readings to a topic of your choosing. The prompt will be fairly open, and you can look at a draft of the prompt which is already available on D2L right now. But you will be expected to pick a specific topic and focus your writing on developing a strong thesis-centric argument. More information about how to write a good thesis and a thesis-driven paper will be provided later in the semester. But it's also worth noting right now that you will have to submit a near to complete rough draft of the final paper for revisions prior to the final deadline. Now, a lot of people stress out about having to submit a final paper so far before the end of the semester, but think about this as a blessing in disguise. If you submit a really good rough draft that has minimal need for revisions, then you'll save a lot of time come the final and be able to focus on your other courses. I'll tell you, after so many years of being in school, there's nothing more relieving feeling than having a final in early and not having to worry about it. So you'll notice here towards the bottom of the third page a little note, and I kind of talked about this a bit earlier, but I'll review anyway. So this is about the order of how to tackle stuff during the week. You should begin the week by looking at the lecture PowerPoints and the lecture videos and reviewing those, and then proceed through the readings and the films before returning to the lecture again to review key concepts and theories. When you return to the lecture, you should be thinking about how can I now take these concepts and apply them to the readings that I just did. Finally, you should tend to the written assignments for the week. It's really recommended that you spread your work throughout the week, and it's required that you engage the D2L site multiple times a week. It's worth noting here that D2L tracks user progress, so I'm able to look to see when you logged in, for how long, and which materials you looked at on D2L. So I'll be checking every week to make sure that students in the course are engaging multiple times throughout the week, and not just waiting until Saturday when discussions are due to do the work for the week. This is also really important because you're required to respond to other students' posts. So if nobody posts until Saturday on the discussion topics, then nobody has any time to respond to other students. Again, start early in the week. You can actually wrap up all of your work for the week by Wednesday and have the rest of the week off to focus on your other courses and enjoy your life. Now, a few notes on course policies which begin here at the bottom of page 3. First off, with email and D2L. As much as possible, please use your arizona.edu account when emailing me. If you happen to email me from a personal email, make sure at the very least that your email address has your name in it so I'm able to know that you are a student in the course. Now, for the most part, I respond to emails within 24 hours and oftentimes even less. Mind you, I'm 10 hours ahead of you right now. So sometimes you might get an email from me at what seems like an odd hour, at 2 o'clock in the morning, but 2 o'clock in the morning for you is 10 o'clock or noon for me that same day. Now, during the weekends, I reserve the right to be away from email from 5 p.m. on Friday until Monday morning. However, I rarely find myself doing this, and I usually still respond to emails pretty consistently over the weekend. But if you do have a question for me about the course, make sure you get it into me by Friday morning so I respond to it while you still have time to submit your Saturday and Sunday assignments. Now, the next note here is on the academic honesty policies, or the Arizona Code of Academic Integrity. And though I'm not going to read through this entire section, the most important thing here is that you're prohibited from in any way plagiarizing during the course. All of our online assignments have Turnitin enabled on them, so I'm able to see where your work came from and to be able to see that if you're using words from maybe a reading or perhaps from another student without quoting them appropriately. And this isn't just about making sure you put everything in quotation marks that's coming from somewhere else, but also that you cite things properly using in-text citations when writing discussion posts or the final paper for the course. Now, the next section here is on grade challenges. You're allowed and even encouraged to make requests for reevaluation of your grades directly with me. In order to do that, and you can begin the process on your own by writing a brief statement describing why their assignment or your assignment should be reassessed. You can't tell me that you think a grade is unfair, but you may suggest that perhaps your answers were misinterpreted, or perhaps I missed something in what you wrote that was really there. For instance, you won't be able to argue successfully that you should receive 1 or 2 points because a 0 is unfair or too harsh, but if you were marked down a number of points for not addressing, let's say, all parts of a question on the midterm, but you can show evidence that in fact you did address all parts of the question, I'm more than happy to reassess that assignment and give you a higher grade. Now, if a reassessment is granted, the original grade assigned will not be taken into consideration. That means that I'm going to pretend as though I never graded your paper in the first place, and I'm going to regrade it in its entirety. Now, next, we have a note on D2L discussion behavior. I'm going to read this in its entirety because it's very important. Right now, this class is dealing with a lot of contemporary and what people might call hot topics from US and Western culture, so it's really important that respect is a key principle in how you approach these discussion points. So we will respect each other's backgrounds and political opinions. We will assume that no one wants to offend us and turn uncomfortable moments into teaching moments. The goal is to understand where people are coming from and respect other people's opinions and beliefs. The goal is not to forcibly change someone's mind, but to learn as much as possible from as many different angles and perspectives available to you, and to gain the critical thinking skills needed to understand different arguments. The instructor, myself, will also be participating in discussion sections to address any points that may arise. Now, I want to make a quick note here, however. Sometimes there will be students who kind of begin the course in outright disavowal of the course material. Gender and Women's Studies takes very seriously the idea that systematic oppression of women, of people of color, of LGBTQ folks is a real thing. So when you're writing your discussion posts, when you're writing your reading reflections for each unit, when you're writing your papers, if you immediately begin in complete disavowal and disagreement with the readings and with the material for the course, it'll be hard to get a good grade in the class. This class, like any other course in any other field, is meant to test your ability to synthesize and understand the material that's in the course. So to provide you with an example, if you were to go into a biology course and instead of answering questions on the test based off of what's taught in biology, to say that you don't believe in biology because you believe in, let's say, creationism instead of evolution, you won't receive a good grade on that test because this isn't testing your ability to disagree with the course material, but your ability to synthesize it and repeat it. So that's what this course is really all about. So even if you find that you're encountering readings that differ from your political opinion, it's important that you be able to approach the author's arguments from a critical way, to synthesize them, to show that you understand them and can repeat them and can apply them to different material before you then criticize them and provide suggestions for how they could have done better. Now, in terms of resources for the course, as always, you can contact me, utilize my digital office hours for clarification on readings, lectures, assignments, and you can also feel free to contact me to voice any concerns you have or speak about issues or experiences that are related to gender and women's studies, maybe from your own life or maybe from other courses that you're taking. Now, in terms of accessibility and accommodation, it is the university and my goal that learning experiences be as accessible as possible. So if you anticipate or experience physical or academic or even social barriers to the course based on disability, please let me know as soon as possible so we can discuss options. You're also welcome to contact the Disability Resources Center to establish reasonable accommodations. And for additional information on disability resources and reasonable accommodations, you can visit drc.arizona.edu. If you do have accommodations that you need made, please plan to talk to me over email or over Skype to discuss those accommodations and how my course requirements and activities may impact your ability to fully participate, so I can provide alternatives or modifications to those so that everybody can participate. Now, the rest of the syllabus here is just a schedule for the class. So make sure you read through it early on and put into your own personal calendars major assignments like the reading reflections, the midterm, discussion post due dates every Saturday, and of course the rough draft and the final draft due dates for the final paper. Now, let's turn really quickly to the D2L page for the course. So when you sign into D2L and you click on the link for GWS 200, you'll be brought to the main page. Now on that main page you'll see a little intro blurb on the left that has kind of the course description on it and my contact information. And then also on the right you'll see a calendar. Now the calendar has pretty much everything you need on it in terms of due dates. You'll notice that it has due dates when the weekly discussions become locked. In other words, when the dates by which you have to post in the weekly discussions. It also has the due dates for the reading reflection. It has the November 10th, the day of the midterm exam. It has November 30th, the rough draft of the final paper due date. And it has also, of course, the final due date for the paper. Now, the next thing I want you to do is click on this kind of crossbar towards the top. You have a number of links here. Click on the first link that says Content. When you click there, you'll come to the content section of the page, which is really where the meat of the course is, most of the stuff that you'll need to access. Now the first section in content has a few things on it. First off, it has the syllabus, which you've probably already accessed, the list of key terms that I told you about, and also a rough draft of the prompt for the final paper, which you're encouraged to look at any time so you can start to prepare from the jump. What you'll also see on there later in the semester is the study guide for the midterm. Next under that we have PowerPoint lectures. And we have, it looks like 8 lectures up for the course for the semester, 1 for each of the weeks of the class. And then you'll also see, if you click below that, 8 lecture videos. If you click on the lecture videos, what you'll get is a link to YouTube. And the videos should come up there. That's also where you're probably watching this video that I'm recording right now. And again, they're meant to go along with the PowerPoint readings. Next, there's the course reading section below it, which has 16 different readings in it. These are ordered based off of how they come in your syllabus, unit by unit. And these are the D2L readings, which we've talked about. Again, you need to cite at least one D2L reading in each of your unit-based reading reflections, the 3 you have for the semester. And you'll also have online discussion questions that specifically ask about some of the D2L readings. And then finally, beneath that, you have the films section. And there are 8 documentary films, each an average of about 40 minutes, corresponding with the weeks in the class for you to watch. And honestly, I think that all of the documentaries are really interesting. If I'm being super honest, way more interesting than I think that I ever could be in a classroom. So hopefully they'll provide you with a lot of fun material to be able to work through. And the upside of having documentary films is it's something that you can kick your feet up for, snack a bit if you want to, and watch them. And actually a lot of them are really fun to watch. So you can watch them with friends or roommates that want to learn a little something extra about pop culture topics in the United States and across the world. So that pretty much wraps it up for this intro video. I hope this helped you feel more comfortable about the class. Again, it is a fast-paced class with a lot of work, but if you have any concerns about that, don't hesitate to contact me. So hopefully you're watching this at the beginning of the first week or even the week before the semester begins. Today is the 25th of September, so I'm going to be posting this video later tonight. And I'll say one quick thing, kind of for a bit of brevity, but having taught this course before, I've also produced these lectures before, both in terms of the PowerPoints and the videos. So if you go to watch the first lecture video and think to yourself, how did his beard get so big so quickly? It's because that video was recorded prior to this one. My beard is much shorter now than it was when I first recorded those videos. So I look forward to reading all of your posts, to getting to know all of you as much as is possible with an online course. And again, don't hesitate to email me with any questions you have. Welcome to GWS 200.